restful summer. I'm glad to welcome you to the launch of the course Smarter and Inclusive Cities under the Urban Learning Center and the Mayors for Economic Growth. My name is Samira Osmanovic, and I'm working as Urban Recovery and Renewal Designer and coordinating the Urban Learning Center. Before we kick off this launch, I would kindly like to remind you of the interpretation function in Zoom. So on your screens, there is a globe icon that you can click and choose the preferred language. So please feel free also to, during the launch, and especially the mini panel later on, pose your questions either in chat or through the raise hand function. So at today's launch, we will be having a welcome address from the UNDP, and also we will have a mini panel on technologies for cities and innovation for people. And then we will follow that with a presentation of the course and also inform you on upcoming Urban Learning Center activities in countries. So without further ado, I would like to welcome my colleague Elina Järvelä, Regional M4EG Manager. So Elina, please, for a welcome from UNDP.
Great. Thanks so much, Samira, and warm welcome on my behalf as well. I'm very glad to see so many of you joining us today for this course launch. So we are very excited to make available yet another course under the Urban Learning Center, the Smarter and Inclusive Cities, which is designed to empower municipalities within the M4EG network, but also broader, to build a future that is both technologically advanced and deeply inclusive. So M4EG recognizes that smart and inclusive development depends on a people-centered, collaboration-driven, and community-led approach. This course is tailored to help cities and municipalities understand the diverse needs of their communities while unlocking the transformative potential of digital technologies. And this course is not just about integrating the latest technologies, but it's also about making sure that these technologies work for everyone, enhancing the community well-being and fostering inclusive growth. So through this course, we aim to equip cities to build a smarter and more inclusive future, where technology enhances the quality of life for all citizens in the municipalities. So we invite all the municipalities to join us in this journey to create cities that are not just smarter, but better for everyone. And we hope that this course, in addition to many more under the Urban Learning Center, will also position cities to be able to attract increased public-private investments, especially under the EU's Economic and Investment Plan for the Eastern Partnership region. So as usual, the course can be accessed as an online course through a login on SparkBlue platform, but it can also be downloaded for offline use. So you can find all the relevant links to the course shared in the chat later. And I also want to use this opportunity to thank our partners, Arup, TalTech, and Climate Kick, for the very good cooperation in developing this course. And to close my part, I want to also acknowledge that we have now 5 different courses available in the Urban Learning Center. And since 2021, we have involved over 1,000 municipal staff members in the M4EG training and learning opportunities. So I really hope this course provides you another exciting opportunity to build more future-ready capabilities. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Elina. And you mentioned many of the important aspects for the smart city development, such of one that is that smarter cities is not just about technology. So I think this is a very good bridge over to the our mini panel for today, where we'll be talking about technologies and innovation for cities and people. So we will be addressing technology, but also diving into a little bit of people-centered and collaborative-driven approach. So now I would like to introduce our two speakers. And today we have with us Kevin Schmidt, a specialist urban innovation, technologies and digitalization at the UNDP Global Center in Singapore. And Kevin's work is focused on smart cities, urban innovation, and technologies. Kevin is exploring how people-centered technology and digitalization can be used to make communities more inclusive, livable, resilient, and sustainable. And previously, he has led the work on local digital governance at UNDP's regional hub for Europe and Central Asia. And prior to that, Kevin has been working in UNDP Bosnia and Herzegovina, Mali, and Tanzania, where he has been concentrating on subnational governance and development, as well as in the public sector. So Kevin, welcome. And also with us, we have today Boris Thomas, Smart City Program Manager at Smart Dún Laoghaire Smart Dublin. Boris is an experienced professional with a strong focus on smart city initiatives and research excellence, with a current role as the Smart City Program Manager at Trinity College Dublin and a previous tenure as an assistant professor at the Faculty of Organization and Informatics in Croatia. He showcases his experience in research, innovation, and project management. Boris also has extensive business and entrepreneurship experience, which includes serving as the director and CFO of Zero Molecule startup and as the head of the Internet of Things laboratory at University of Zagreb, where he conducted research in IoT, software engineering, and related areas. He is also holding a PhD with a focus on vehicular communication networks and is recognized for his advanced digital skills in information and data literacy, communication, and problem solving. So welcome to you as well, Boris. And I would like to give the floor to Kevin first here to talk a little bit on technologies and innovation for cities and people. And Kevin, please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Samira. Also, thank you, Elina, for the introduction and welcoming remarks. I will share my screen. Please let me know if you can see it. If it's visible,
so we'll probably be able to see it in a second here.
I've seen some people nodding, so I will just kick off the presentation. So thanks again for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about how technology and innovation can make cities smarter and more inclusive. So just to give you a brief overview about the structure of my short intervention, first I will provide a little bit of background about the UNDP Global Center in Singapore. I will then delve into an emerging framework on factors for successful innovation and technologies in cities. And lastly, provide a few UNDP case studies from outside the RBEC region. So, the UNDP Global Center for Technology, Innovation, and Sustainable Development is a joint initiative between the government of Singapore and the United Nations Development Programme. So the center revels in the rich ecosystem of Singapore to spark discussions and drive action in support of the work country offices and regional hubs are doing. So the idea is where Singapore's experience is relevant, we bring that to the table, and it is part of a broader offer of UNDP for the countries we work in. So the center is mainly a normative role, but we also support country-level piloting, capacity building, as well as partnership development. As you can see on the screen, we're working in 5 areas. And as the name indicates, we're really working at the intersection of these 5 areas with technology and innovation. We we at the center, we have a number of knowledge products specifically focused on cities and innovation, and that I would like to invite you to access via the QR code on the screen. We have a handbook on urban innovations. We have a playbook on how to deploy drones in urban settings. And soon we're going to publish a report on how to use open source technology within urban context. On the screen, you can see I've also included a digital inclusion playbook. This is not really part of the city portfolio, but I thought for today's discussion, it could also be relevant for the work you're doing. This playbook underwent a 100-day global consultation process, and my colleague is currently working on the second iteration of this digital inclusion playbook, which will be published in the coming weeks. But so now let me shift to some more specific details on what we are learning in terms of factors that can support successful urban innovation and help cities becoming smarter. So we see that—
Sorry, Kevin, just to intervene, it seems like the screen is a little bit blurry for the other participants as well. Do you mind resharing? Just maybe it's something.
Okay, let me see if this works better.
Now we are very, very much zoomed in. I think that works a little bit better. Yeah, it looks good.
Is it better now?
Yes, it looks good. So you can continue now. Sorry
Okay.
for the...
I'm sorry for that. Okay. So what we see is that if technology and innovation, if applied in an inclusive and people-centered approach, can really amplify the central role cities are playing in the lives and livelihoods of people around the world. So, but when we began to look across the different work we have been doing in cities and in innovation, we noted that there were important and persistent, but also growing disparities in terms of accessibility, application, and outcomes. So we began asking ourselves what we are learning from the support to governments and cities, and conducted research on UNDP's work in urban, which covered over 150 urban innovation initiatives and projects across 80 countries to really discern some key lessons and findings. And this has led, this learning has led into an emerging framework of factors that can support successful innovation in cities. You can hopefully see it on the screen and also read it. I will go briefly through it. During this research, we began to see quite a fundamental shift, a paradigm shift in urban innovation that really puts people back at the center, embraces technology, but not just digital technology. It also includes low and no tech solutions, as well as more increasingly, nature-based solutions. So this is still a draft framework I'm sharing with you. And so I'm looking also forward to learning more from the discussions today. So let me start in the center and work my way out. So first, a key learning has been, and I mean, it's quite self-evident for probably most of the audience and experts here today, is that the people's development needs to be at the center of all our efforts. So our efforts must benefit people in city and have an explicit focus. So rather than being about the technologies themselves. Another key learning is that context matters. So there's no blueprint, one-size-fits-all solution for cities, as all cities have different assets and different starting points. Let me move to the elements in red, which are the factors that ensure innovation works for all and is people-centered. So we saw successful urban innovation or urban initiatives put in place the overall policy, legal, coordination, and governance frameworks to guide and inform innovation. So coordination across all levels of government is key, and where these mechanisms allow for and encourage collaboration across discipline and different sectors, the initiatives are much more successful. Another finding was that successful urban innovations was outcome-driven. So really focusing on the desired results and adaptive to changes, rather than being focused on different and various activities. If we move on the different factors highlighted in red, we also saw that human rights, safety, and security are emerging as important factors. And this is especially linked to the fact that many innovations are using technology, and collecting a lot of data and generating different types of results and using analytical tools. So we saw an increasing interest in working in these areas in order to have a successful project and initiatives. The next one is co-design with people, which is a key success factor. And here it's really about the relevance and the ownership of solution and results within the communities. And lastly, ensuring and building skills within communities, within the public sector, but also more broadly in the ecosystem is absolutely key. And we see that this is translated in various ways. Sometimes cities and countries are implementing innovation competency frameworks, but increasingly there are also whole society competency frameworks for digital skills, which enable further innovation, but also enable participants to benefit from and harness what new technologies can actually do. And when moving into the blue, into the areas highlighted in blue, we see 7 factors which emerge around successfully putting innovation into practice. So the first thing that successful urban initiatives have in common is that they're problem focused. I mean, this seems almost obvious, but as we all know, cities are very complex systems, and understanding the root cause or the root causes of a problem is crucial in order to make all stakeholders involved understand their role and position within the system. Another factor is the need for feedback loops. And given the dynamic natures of city and also problems, it's really about addressing the real needs and changing needs of different groups within communities and cities. The third factor is about making these initiatives or solutions real and relevant in terms of impact for citizens. So this is really more about communicating around the
one
intended
second,
benefit.
If I may. The colleagues that are translating in caption, you're both speaking.
The solutions can
please
provide, not over-promising, and being really also upfront about the limitations. Another factor is, of course, a success factor is being data-driven. I mean, this is, of course, data is something which starts with the problem definition across the design of solutions, implementation of innovations, as well as communicating results. The next one, which we distilled from our research, is the ability of a city to foster a culture of experimentation. And this is both within the public sector, but also throughout societies. So cities can actively contribute to building such a culture of experimentation by supporting, for example, small-scale pilot initiatives, or creating an environment that enables innovation. Here also test beds and sandboxes were often used, and the Global Center will publish soon a report specifically on how test beds and sandbox can encourage innovation. The sixth factor is about leveraging the ecosystem and working with actors beyond the public sector. This includes, of course, private sector and academia. And it's really about intentionally building these partnerships in order to innovate and implement smarter solutions. And finally, the seventh factor is a bit more specific, but it's really exploring the utility of open source and digital public goods wherever possible in order to accelerate the adoption of smarter solutions. But how does this emerging framework actually look like when we have concrete case studies? So I selected three, all outside of RBAC, as I mentioned before, just to briefly demonstrate. So the first one I'd like to showcase is a collaboration between the Global Center and the Gambia Country Office, where we supported the municipality of Banjul to address shortcomings in the revenue collection in the main market of the city. This was a collaboration with the local university, and it started off with a sense-making process with municipal government to really understand how their processes and operation work, especially when it comes to tax collection. We also, together with the university and local stakeholders, developed a user journey map to really understand how these processes worked. And we surveyed talked to over 1,800 market vendors, municipal officers, we talked to financial institutions, as well as customers and visitors of the market. And this really helped to better understand the different challenges and actually if and where digitalization might be useful. The result was actually quite a simple solution. It was equipping all market vendors with a QR code, which was a low cost and very efficient solution, as it actually increased tax collection rate by 25%. But in addition to increasing the tax collection rate, it also helped to gather information about the offer at the market. And this information was afterwards used to display on display for improving the experience of visitors within the market of Banjul. Another one which I would very quickly touch upon is an initiative which was implemented by the UNDP country office in Namibia. So they wanted to test if the concept of smart cities actually works in their own context, especially recognizing that very often these concepts were developed in Western countries. So they wanted to see if it would be applicable to their own context. And they engaged citizens, universities, and public institutions. And they gamified how smart innovation could look like. The university developed such solutions, and they were displayed throughout the city. And it was an interactive and participatory way to see if these innovations are actually relevant for the people, if they improve their lives as citizens, or if they were useless. And these results from that smart city hunt, they informed the city government's future intervention, but they also realized it actually improved current public service delivery, as they could make slight adjustments based on the inputs from citizens. And it also led to an adjustment of the initially developed concept of smart city for the city of Windhoek. And last, just an example from our country office in Argentina, where they supported a community-driven collaboration and partnership in a neighborhood to better connect people to the digital world. So when the central government moved services online, many citizens could not access these services anymore without the support of municipal offices, actually, and were required to travel far to receive whatever they wanted to receive. So in response, a rather hyper-local network of shopkeepers was created. These shopkeepers were trained and equipped to actually support their local community in performing these various online procedures. So the network offered different types of support, from providing access to tools, to digital devices. They provided free internet connectivity. And in certain cases, they were even trained to provide dedicated guidance and walk fellow neighbors through those administrative processes. So this collaborative way of working together created a local ecosystem which brought digital skills to the community. It helped to bridge the digital divide, and it also enhanced or guaranteed the access of essential national resources at the local level. And interestingly, another effect was observed, that participating shops who were part of this initiative saw their revenues increase. And as such, it also improved the economic livelihoods within these participating neighborhoods. So in closing, I think we believe that a paradigm shift is occurring in urban innovation. So one that builds on previously notions of a smart city, so moving towards a smarter city, but it really puts people at the center of those processes. It is more intentional in creating an enabling environment, but it's also more adaptive. It is more responsive. It is more data-driven and very much partnership conscious. So with that, thank you for your attention, and I'll hand back to Samira.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kevin, for your presentation and for walking us through how UNDP works and sees the smartening or technologies in cities. And thank you for also bringing forward many of the interesting examples. And I look forward to returning back to your presentation later on. And we also have a few questions in the chat. But before that, I would also like to invite Boris to tell us a little bit more about the Smart Dún Laoghaire or Smart Dublin initiative, which is really an initiative in action, or like smart city in action. So I look very much forward to hearing more about that experience. So please, Boris, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Samira. Thank you, Kevin, for a great intro. All right. My name is Boris Tomasz, and I'm a Smart City Program Manager in Dublin, Dún Laoghaire town. Before I start, while listening to Kevin's presentation, maybe just to emphasize the environment that we are in. So Dublin is not a one city. It's actually 4 cities, 4 towns, 4 city councils, 4 mayors working together as one on the outside, but on the inside, they're all very independent, and there is no regional overall strategy that everything needs to be replicated from one place to another. This comes, for example, on the topic of, for example, city bicycles. The layouts of bike stands and everything is different from one part of Dublin to another, just because they are not obliged to do any coordination. However, that's why we have Smart Dublin. And Smart Dublin is a project, first of all, that brings together all of the technology providers, academia, and citizens to transform public services and enhance quality of life. Maybe some 100 years ago, when someone had an idea and wanted that idea to be implemented in a city, together with local authorities, that was virtually impossible without going through political dimensions of local authorities. But today we are facing different kinds of challenges where cities have recognized that they are kind of closed to any idea from the outside. And that's why, fortunately, Dublin has started this project to open up local authority to others. And we have identified stakeholders, and those are local universities, local National Science Foundation projects, and researchers doing scientific research in the field of either IoT communication and smart cities in general. And also we are actively collaborating with local businesses. As you may know, Ireland is very business active area. So we are collaborating with, I don't know, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and all of them together to build a smarter city. Our internal organization kind of follows this geographical distribution of cities. So we have several geo-placed, let's call them departments, but there are Smart Docklands, Smart DCU, which is university, Smart D8, which is a part of town as well, Smart Dún Laoghaire, Smart Balbriggan, and Sandyford. These are all areas of a town. And we also have one thematic one, which is smart tourism, because we have recognized that tourism is very important. So any innovation in tourism would be very good to have. So I will talk about projects that we have on the grounds. Our projects target several domains. The first one is environment. Dublin area is very not faring well with climate change. So because of the coastal erosion, so we have projects that are dealing with environment. We are also working with the people dimension, so we want to improve quality of life of people and citizen engagement. We have identified that citizen participation in project is declining. Not only our project, not only smart city projects, but any city initiative, you have declining interest of people to, let's consider just simple public consultation. So the number of people who respond to those is relatively high compared to the other countries. However, the numbers are declining, and we are trying to encourage that, and I will talk about on the specific projects on that topic. Dublin has a huge problem with mobility. I think it's 16th worst city in the terms of congestion. I think it's around 45 minutes or up to 1 hour of average commute time. So Dublin or Ireland in general is investing 1 million euros a day to improve cycling infrastructure. So these are the projects that we are also tackling. Economy, we want to improve business. We want to make sure that market works well here. So while working on smart projects, we try to keep it open for any businesses and make sure that any business can access all of the technologies and projects that we are working on. And of course, we are talking about government. It's very, first of all, remember we have 4 cities, right? So if you have one government to control all of those, that would be okay, but we have 4. So any decision making is particularly, it's very important to have it data-based. So one of our key initiatives in Smart Dublin project is to get the data so we can have data-driven decisions that are useful for citizens. It's very, people are sometimes very hard on decision. If decision is not based on data, then they will complain. But if you present data to citizens, and that's what we are doing, we are presenting data to citizens and of course their representatives in local councils, then their decision needs to be backed by this data, and then they will approve it. Otherwise, it will be very political decisions. And of course, we want to make sure that last dimension is living. So we want to sure how to use technology to make our citizens' well-being better. These are the projects. We have so many projects, and I have selected a few of them. While listening to Kevin's presentation, I kind of forgot the last one, which is very relevant, and I'll skip to that one in the end. So while speaking on the data, we have open data portal called Dublinked. It was relaunched in 2016, and we have over 700 data sets available covering various domains such as environment, transport, public health, and more. This is one part of Dublin with just accessible parking spaces in DCC. Also, remember, we are talking about 4 cities, meaning that one data set from one city in Dublin does not correlate to another data set in another part of Dublin, in another city. So this is one of the challenges that we are facing, and probably in the near future, we will tackle this by unifying all the data sources to speak the same language at least, so we can have comparable data with machine comparable data. Another project that we are working that's very active as we speak is called Pedal Pulse. It is something that we collaborate with Sandyford Business District. It's a part of town again, but we are working with citizens. So we are deploying 200 smart lights, bike lights, to 200 citizens, and those smart lights have sensors in it, like location, inertial motion sensor, gyros, and whatever. So they record and measure various values as people commute from work to home and home to work. So the purpose of this is to identify patterns of behavior of commuters, bike commuters, and also to identify infrastructure flaws. For example, if there is a, I don't know, pothole or a rough terrain, that's the only way to identify. Because, like I said previously, if we don't have the data, all we can rely is on a feeling of a people. And unfortunately, if you want to have a decent decision to, I don't know, repair a cycling lane, you need to have a data backing this that this lane is rough or damaged or whatever. And also in this project, we are collecting incident info, near miss, and sudden braking. So we want to make sure which part of our town cycling infrastructure is very dangerous. And then once we have all the data, we can then make a decision to make urban interventions to make cycling safer. Another project is drone strategy. It's launched by Dublin City Council, one of the towns, and its purpose is to enhance service delivery, to improve efficiency, and to reduce costs. And also the purpose is to future-proof the city by integrating new and emerging technology. So our strategy that we have here is a guideline of how to use drones in public service delivery, from, I don't know, firefighter support to surveying and monitoring of the streets, for example. I would also just emphasize that in Dublin area, we have several businesses that are delivering using drones. So we have deliveries from coffee to medical supply that every citizen can order and being delivered on their doorstep. So we have a very good Irish Aviation Authority that is very supportive for those businesses, and luckily those things are going to be more scaled up to whole Dublin region. Another project which is more of artistic, it's called the Portal. It is actually interactive public art installation that's connecting Dublin and New York City, and it allows real-time visual interaction between people in both cities. I think it was all around the world. The news about this, unfortunately, it brought the worst in people. So it was shut down for a while, and it's not working 24/7 as it was envisioned previously. And now it's shut down in the evening when people are more relaxed. And the last project is something that we did with Google. It's called Project AirView, and it is launched to measure and map air quality across Dublin using advanced air quality measurement technology. And what we did, we now have over 50 million air quality measurements taken at 5 million locations across Dublin City. This is a Google Street View car. While they did Street View, they also measured air quality. So we have a very detailed map of air quality. And also this data is being updated, but not with real measurements, rather with data analytics AI to make a prediction of air quality. So far, it's working extremely precise and well because we do have static sensors, and all of the models that this project produced are being tested against real-time data, even if the car is not going through the streets. And the project that I actually forgot to put, that Kevin reminded me, it's called SCORE. This is a project, your EU-funded project that we work with University College Dublin, with researchers from spatial department. And what they do in this project together with us, we deploy sensors, but not on our own. We rather include citizens. So they organize the workshops for citizens and researchers from UCD actually taught people how to deploy air quality sensor, weather station. We have water level monitoring, and we also have water quality sensors. But the general idea is to encourage people to join our initiative and help deploy sensors in their backyards, and the data is fed to central IoT platform, and it's something that helps researchers to do their research on the data that's collected. And also, just on that topic, I wish I had prepared a slide on it. There's a Smart Pebble. So researchers on SCORE, UCD, and other universities in the project, they created something called Smart Pebble. It's a beach stone. They drilled a hole in it, put a RFID tag on it. They 3D scanned it, they recorded the location, and let it go on a beach. And several months later, they will use RFID scanner, scan whole beach, find the stone, make a 3D scan again, record a new location, and this way they record not only movement of the stones on a beach, they also record how it eroded over time. And believe it or not, I was surprised. By the way, they deployed 200 stones, and I was surprised how volatile is the ocean, and how dynamic is the movement of beach. And this is something that's, like I said in the beginning, it's very important for Dublin to monitor coastal erosion. And only way to predict erosion is to monitor how a coastline moves. And luckily we have people from SCORE and UCD to tell us how it moves. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Thank you, Boris. It's truly impressive and inspiring to hear how Smart Dublin has been working, and just also that you have to coordinate with 4 mayors, and we all know how challenging it can be just in one city authority. And yeah, I will follow up more on all of this with data-driven decision making and so on. But then let's now return to Kevin and some questions that have come into the chat here. So Kevin, we have a question from Kaya. In terms of piloting and experimentation in cities, why only small scale and why not large scale? So Kevin, please.
Well, thanks a lot. And first of all, congratulations to Boris and his entire team in the city of Dublin for the really exciting initiatives. I also noted a few down, and I will probably reach out to you to dig a little bit deeper in some of them. They're very interesting and also overlap with a couple of work we're doing, especially the coastal erosion one, since we're working a lot with small island states. So that is something of interest. Also, very good question, Kaya. Why only small scale? I think this is linked to what I've mentioned when it comes to creating a culture of experimentation. So the idea is it does not exclude large scale initiatives or piloting, but it is really about very often when we work with different cities, there needs to be a proof of concept. And cities in itself, they have the decision-making power, very often the necessary resources to actually try out different solutions. And what I mean by that is really to see like a trial and error method, to see what does actually work and what doesn't. I'm also mentioning that because very often, as I mentioned it briefly in the presentation, but very often these smart city concepts are very intensive in terms of costs. They're very often more adjusted to, again, more Western contexts. For example, very often technology does not work in very humid or in very dry and very hot environments. So it's also this idea of actually seeing what has been developed or tried in other countries and then see if in that city it could work. But I agree with you. I might change my phrasing next time. We also need to avoid that we only do piloting and small scale, but once it works, of course, the idea is to scale it up and then use it in a more broader sense. I hope I responded to that question.
Thank you, Kevin. And if the response is not what is expected, so please just also feel free to raise your hand and we can start a conversation on this as well. Maybe while we are on this, Kevin, you can maybe take the other question as well, as it's from Ralph Martin on why these cases that you presented. I think it also goes a little bit maybe into this.
Okay, perfect. And in the meantime, Boris can read the long question, which is addressed to him in the chat on, on air cleanness. Why I have selected these specific cases. I mean, as I mentioned, we scanned over 150 different cases. Some are easier to present, others are a little bit more complicated. So it's a very frank answer. The reason why I used these particular three, because I think it really shows very well what you can do in a context also sometimes of limited resources in terms of creating a smarter city. I think especially being based in Singapore and sometimes the aspiration of having the smart city with very cost-intensive, very elaborate solution, but I think sometimes very localized, very simple, sometimes no-tech solutions are quite important to improve lives and livelihoods of people. And I think in the ones I used, I really see that this interplay between how the local context was used, how it was analyzed, how technological tools come into play to actually improve the lives and which are real and relevant for citizens. I think these are kind of very good ones to showcase. And they're also, to be fully transparent, these are also more of the successful ones which we have mapped.
Thank you, Kevin. We do also a lot within our initiative also encourage that failure is not learning. So failure is also learning sometimes. So even like with less successful cases, there could be like some outcomes, learnings. So please then, Boris, I hope you read the question, but then I can also just briefly repeat it. How do you use this air cleanliness data? If I understand correctly, Dublin also has some problems with the cleanliness of the air since you're doing such studies. Are there any specific examples of the use of the obtained data in practice in the implementation of projects aimed at solving this problem?
Okay, before I answer this question, I would just to continue on Kevin and the first question. Why not scale up full? The best example is the portal that you've seen. It is rather expensive. It requires lots of, it costs a lot in essence. Imagine that we deploy them all around the city, multiple portals, and then all the problems that happen across the city, and it would be lost opportunity. So we learn from small scale pilots. For example, what we learned here and what I will probably advocate in the future is not to have portal on a street. So let's put a portal connecting two museums in the world. So to have more civilized approach, I would say, on connecting two locations. So that's why we learn by mistakes and we learn from small scale pilots so we can scale them up. We don't start pilots with the initial idea just to have it on one location. We always plan full city rollout of whatever we learn. One of those examples, just so you know, in Dublin, we had a smart buoy. You know that a ring that people who are in water can for the rescue, right? The problem that we had, that ring buoy was stolen quite oftenly, and what we did, we installed sensor on a casing, so we know when it was stolen, so we can replace it and save lives in the future. So, but this started as a small pilot, but now it's rolled out to whole Dublin. So every ring buoy has a sensor, and now we know that we need to replace them once it's taken out of the box. So to answer Yevhen question, so we do have something called climate action plan. This is something that we do as a local authority, and to be honest, they're all proud of it to have it on the grounds. We have declared 2 decarbonized zone, and in order to monitor performance of decarbonized zones, we do have deployed air quality sensor. Of course, with those sensors, we can't measure CO2 level because it's physically not possible. It's not isolated environment. However, we are monitoring other volatile traffic induced I would say, particles in the air. So we know our progress of all the interventions. One of the examples also where we use the data, air quality data, is pedestrianization of the streets. There are very few streets in Dublin that are only pedestrianized, and in our southern part of Dublin we are actually doing just that. We identified heavy traffic, and also one way is to either pedestrianize it, and another way is to reduce the speed. So if you want to if you want to increase air quality, you need to control the traffic in that way. So
I think we have some internet issue. Okay, I hope Boris is going to be back with us soon. In the meantime, Kevin, maybe I'll go back to you and with another question here, because you did mention a few global examples, and I would just like to follow up on global best practices in smart city development. They often need to be tailored to local context. So how can these practices be adapted to meet the unique needs of different communities and be localized? Thank you.
Thanks, Samira. So I think, well, maybe to start off, I think it is good to have knowledge of global best practices as a source of inspiration to really start as a starting point and understand different patterns and what has been done by other cities and other municipalities. And these can be some guiding principles. And this is also the idea of this emerging frameworks, which I explained briefly before, is really to see what kind of standards or factors could be relevant to make this kind of smart initiatives successful. But it's also, I mean, it's very clear, and I mentioned it briefly before, the importance of adjusting it to local context. And I think there it is absolutely crucial to understand the local communities, understand their needs, their challenges, their way of living, but also in a more positive formulated way, really to see what are their aspirations and their wants in order to improve lives and livelihoods. And I think there's various methods to do so. I've mentioned a few before. It's social listening, it's surveys, it's focal group discussions, but it's also like the inclusion of feedback loops within existing services, for example, public services, so people can feedback immediately to understand what is out there. But I think beyond that is also to understand behavior, because sometimes maybe the responses and the behavior are different. I think the example Boris mentioned before about the sensor on bicycle is a very good one, because it actually concretely measures where people are cycling and not what they tell you about where they're cycling. So I think that's this combination of various tools and methodology helps to really better understand the needs of local communities. But I also think when it comes to localizing global best practices, it is also crucial to understand cultural, geographical, maybe environment-related conditions in order to make successful, smarter city initiatives. And I think here local knowledge is very important, but also a bit of a bigger understanding. And just to give you a very short example, I was recently at a roundtable discussion, and it was about an established way to measure how specifically women feel safe during nighttime. And what was done was they measured mobility, specifically mobility in women, and basically and the time of the day. And in many cities and in my own context, that is actually quite reliable, as there is a certain correlation. If it's nighttime, women move less around in certain areas. But it was interesting because there was one participant from Saudi Arabia, and he said, this does not work in our context because women will not walk around during daytime when it's 50 degrees. So that specific established mechanism does not work in that context, because basically all social life is happening at nighttime, which is very logic if you think about it. But like when you establish these practices, when you talk about these different mechanisms, you really sometimes maybe forget these little differences. And I think that's something which is really up to municipal officers and people working in the communities and communities themselves, which are best placed to see these small cultural or geographical or whatever differences. And then I think experimentation and iteration, I mentioned it briefly before. If you have a global best practice, try it out. If it works in your city, fail, try it again, fail again, and really see how you can make it relevant for your municipalities. And it also requires, I think, a cultural change within public administration to really have this openness of trying out. And I maybe Boris can elaborate a little bit more about it, but I mean, very often officials have KPIs, and all of these KPIs are success driven. So the aspect or the openness of failure, of really saying, well, that did not work out, should actually be gratified and recognized as something positive. And I think in some contexts, this is slowly happening, but I think we're not there yet. And I think this could also help to really see how you can have small scale bottom-up initiatives, which maybe try something new. It works, sometimes it doesn't. And as a last point I would mention in that specific context is really rely on partnerships, local knowledge. Because if you use these local partnership, companies, private sector, academia, this is also local resources which are available in your context. So you can really tap into decades of experiences using public spaces, using way of living, and so on and so forth. And this kind of also creates let's say, an economy of innovation in a very defined area. This could really help also to take local best practices, localize it, using local resources, local knowledge, and actually make it work.
Thank you, Kevin. And I think what we take from here is that the importance of localizing through testing and engaging the community in order to validate if some global best practices will be feasible on the ground. And also with the last question, Boris, we lost you before for a second, but I think you were almost done with your answer. It felt like that. But then I would just also like to follow up on this interesting aspect of 4 mayors working together. So a little bit, if you can just elaborate on how do you manage to make all these different stakeholders collaborate? And also, if possible, to touch upon, you mentioned data-driven decision-making, but what tools do you use to engage the citizens also to be part of shaping the city?
Okay, first question regarding mayor organization of local authority. When I came here in Dublin, I'm obviously not Irish, I was told, don't mess with the politics. And this is the rule I follow. Luckily, our organization, Smart Dublin, has something called regional manager, Alan Murphy. Maybe someone knows him. He and his team are in charge of scaling up and coordinating projects between local authorities. And Smart Dublin, if we go even level more, there is a Smart Cities Network. Global, there's a Smart Cities Ireland initiative. So we are all collaborating, exchanging ideas and exchanging experience on various projects, not only on the ground level, but all the way up to international level. And luckily, organization works, and there are organizations that allow this exchange of information. On the other question of citizen engagement, I will not talk about, let's say, public consultations for the local authority, because we are, in reality, smart city and local authority, we are kind of separate entities. Even legally, we are separate entities, but we are working together. So our consultations, so local authority has, I don't know, citizen space platform for public consultation, which is just a form where people leave their comments on. But I can tell you, for example, of that SCORE project, researchers from UCD organized several workshops for geodesign. It's a kind of new methodology where people collaborate on designing the city, designing the intervention that we are working. For example, when we needed to deploy air quality sensors, we invited citizens on a workshop and gave them tools where they put different sensors on different locations. And then if anyone wants to know, it's called geodesign methodology. It's very complicated, but it's very rewarding because people are contributing actively, and that's very nice. On that topic, we are doing also research. Samira told that I work at Trinity University. I'm a research fellow there. So one of the projects that we actually started a few weeks ago is use of augmented reality in citizen engagement. So the demo that we did during that research was planting trees. So we asked people to plant a tree, not on a map to drop pins, rather to look through their phone, right? And then plant a tree on a phone, on a virtual map, on a desk, in a room with all other participants. And the next phase of that project would be to go on the street and look through the phone and see 3D rendering of trees that they planted. So they will see how this will look in the future if their proposal gets selected.
Thank you so much. It's as I said before, very inspiring, and I would just like to continue this conversation, but then we are a little bit short on time now. So I saw in the chat that there was a request if you could, Boris, if you could share your presentation with our participants. So we will follow up on that.
Yeah, Samira, you have it. You can share it.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your work. And I hope that this has been inspiring for our network as much as I find it. So thank you all. And now now it's time to present the course. So I would like to invite Luisa Shursti Azambuya, the doctor in smarter and inclusive, sorry, just to share my screen. Luisa is doctor in smart and sustainable cities at TalTech University, and she has been one of the main authors of this course. So Luisa, there is no one better than you to walk us through this course content. So please, floor is yours.
Perfect. So can you hear me well? Yes?
Yes.
Good. So I'm going to share the screen. Okay, great. So you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
So thank you very much, Samira, for the introduction, and thank you very much, Boris and Kevin, for the panel. It's very inspiring for me as well. So I'm gonna give like a brief overview of the Smarter and Inclusive course. But before we go into this course, I would just like to do a little recap about the first course that we had in the Urban Learning Center, which was the Foundations for Future Readiness course, because this course had like different modules, and one of them was the Understanding Smarter and Inclusive Cities. And this introductory module brings an overview of the topic. It explains challenges of urban growth and contextualizes the emergence of the smart city concept and its contribution to sustainable development goals. Then the Smarter and Inclusive Cities is a deep dive course which is intended to be completed after doing the foundation for future readiness. So where is the course hosted? As it was already mentioned, so the course, it's Smart Dún platform as well. And it's also available for downloading like the PDF. So you can also access the content of the course in a document, and then you can read it and it offline. So how is the course structured? So the deep dive course in Smarter and Inclusive Cities consists of 5 modules. So the first one is Inclusivity for Smarter City Development. The second one is Smarter Governance. The third one is Planning for Smarter and Inclusive Cities. Then Smarter and Inclusive Cities Projects and Pilots. And finally, Implementation and Monitoring of initiatives. So, yes. So what's the model? So similar to the other courses, they have been designed to support self-learning. So you can go on your own pace and do it like on your own time. It takes around 14 minutes to 1 hour to do each module. And you can break it into a bite-sized contents like chapters. So you don't need to do all of them at once. Each module contains some written content and also some videos and interactive activities, some quiz to check your understanding of the course, and some reflection questions. You can do it like by yourself, and you can also do it like together with other city representatives, so you can share experience and learn together. So the first module, it highlights the importance of this systematic and people-centered approach, and it also explains key dimensions for smarter and inclusive cities. So for example, city engagement and empowerment, digital inclusion, digital infrastructure, cybersecurity, and internal and external capacities. Capacity building for municipalities. The second module builds awareness of key dimensions of smart city governance, introduces or like helps to identify key stakeholders, and presents enablers and challenges related to the governance of smarter and inclusive cities. The third module, we unpack the planning for smarter and inclusive cities. It explains the main aspects related to city planning. It highlights the importance of strategy definition and to have like a plan of action. And it presents typical thematic areas of actions, bringing a lot of examples, of course. So the fourth module, Smarter and Inclusive City Projects and Pilots, look at mechanisms and approaches for developing locally adapted and people-centered solutions, explaining also how to move from the planning to action, and the importance of testing, piloting, upscaling, and replicating solutions. Last but not least, the fifth module, focus on implementing and monitoring city initiatives. It will present key implementation challenges, introduces agile approach for project management, presents different categories, themes, and types of indicators, highlights the importance of monitoring and assessment for smarter and inclusive city development. It's important to mention that this content was also defined based on the survey that we did last year with the municipality. So we were trying to combine the learning needs with what the local authorities were interested in learning regarding smart city development. So as I mentioned before, the course also brings a lot of inspiration and practical insights from different cities. I'm not going to go in detail about the cases, but I'm just going to show some of the examples that you can find in the course. And then in the course, you can also see a lot of additional resources of information. So it's very useful for you to even like find more inspirational cases. So for example, this Meld our app was co-created in Rotterdam with its citizens, and it's useful for reporting issues in public spaces. We also bring a lot of examples of city strategies that could support smarter and inclusive cities. So for example, the city of Vienna, Santiago in Chile, Stockholm, Tallinn, Berlin, and London. And as Kevin mentioned in his presentation, it's good to have the knowledge about best practice, and then you can try it out and you can use as an example. Of course, you cannot just copy and paste the strategy of one city to another one, but it's useful as a good example. Besides that, we also have cases for citizen engagement and for digital divide. So for example, the Tartu participative budgeting, also the basic digital skills for elegant age in Ukraine. So we were trying to find and to add in the course examples from different cities in different places. We also have some examples of inspirational cases of mini, medium, and large pilots. So for example, the mini pilot of Turku, which was for decreasing the traffic in the city center. We bring the example of the medium pilot, the well-being score in Narva in Estonia. So it was this pilot is useful for planning urban environments, and the score is used as a tool for city planning. And then in terms of large pilot, there is the Green Twins, which is for empowering citizens to design urban green areas. So if you want to know more about those cases, you should register to the course, and then you can see there more detailed information, and also additional links and documents to complement your learning. So that was the brief presentation about the course. If you have any questions and comments, let us know. And we also encourage you when doing the course to provide us feedback and pointing like opportunities for improvement and what else you would like to know about smart and inclusive cities. So
thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Luisa, for the thorough presentation of the course. And of course, as Elena already mentioned, for all the work leading up to the final product. And I will also just shortly share again where you can access the course in the chat. But now let me invite my colleagues from UNDP country offices for national updates on the Urban Learning Center related activities. And we will go in alphabetic order. So Christ, please.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, hello everyone. Just addressing to the Armenian community.
Dear colleagues, thank you for your participation. This is a rather interesting course built on practical examples, and I do believe it will be useful for drawing parallels in your communities, finding new opportunities, and using local and international solutions make your communities smarter and more inclusive. We are going to hold additional meetings in the near future, during which we will discuss opportunities for further collaboration in order to present this course to wider layers of the society, and to withdraw additional and generate new ideas, aiming to develop further similar initiatives and projects. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. And then we will move to Ulvi and
I'm a new manager for Azerbaijan project. I've been just appointed, so I'll be super short and will address my colleagues from Azerbaijan as well. Thank you very much. Hörmətli Azərbaycandan qoşulan qonaqlarımız, mənim adım
Dear colleagues joining us from Azerbaijan, my name is Ulvi Patalov, and I am replacing Javed Mammadov, who was a former project manager. I'm just familiarizing myself with the activities, and I would like to share with you that we have already the translation completed for 4 courses, 4 modules with a Smart. Now the last module is being translated, and in a very short period of time it will be also placed and updated. And so I would like to thank you, and I'm happy to meet you in person very time soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ulvi. And then Otar and Georgia, please.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Boris, Kevin, and Luisa for the amazing presentation and the inspiration which they have shared with us. So let me now shift to Georgian and
I would like to greet you once more. It's a really fascinating, really interesting course. We already managed to present and provide this course to Georgian municipalities 2 weeks ago. So we already carried out this course, and representatives of municipalities were really interested, were really inspired, and I really believe that this course will help them in their future activities and will enable them to implement smart solutions and innovations really successfully in their municipalities to improve lives of their citizens. Of course, we're going to continue our work in this area. We'll do our best to ensure that this course is delivered to other municipalities who could not participate, regrettably, in this course yet. I wish you success and extend my gratitude to all of you.
Thank you, Otar. And then Mircea from Moldova, please.
Hello, dear colleagues. Hope you hear me well. And thank you, everybody, for the presentations. I am excited. I already started the course, excited to finish it as soon as possible. I recommend everybody to do so. It's a very interesting one. From our side in Moldova, I will switch a bit to Romanian to update our colleagues what's happening on our side.
Good day, everyone. So on our side, we've already sent emails to everyone concerning our call for all the municipalities, concerning the 5 courses provided by the Urban Learning Center, which you can find on their platform. So they will have an AI subscription for 1 month. Concerning the Urban Learning Center course, so the second course concerning economic development in 2 cities, municipalities already started their participation in these courses, they enrolled. And also in November, we are planning an event to finalize the project, to end the project. We will share more details about it, and we will share more about the courses that you can attend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mircea. And then over to Stanislav in Ukraine.
Yeah, thank you, Samira. Thank you, colleagues. Indeed, very interesting presentations. And I think that participants of this event are excited to pass the course already. So I will switch to Ukrainian. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. We are really happy and honored that you have found time to join in and participate in this event. I do hope that the presentations were useful for you because the cases and examples quoted by the colleagues are of interest, and hopefully they are going to be useful for you. Generally speaking, when you access our platform, you will see 2 courses translated into Ukrainian, that's Readiness for the Future and Green Transition. 3 modules are going to be interpreted, rather translated shortly. That's Smart and Inclusive Cities and Social Listening. As to the plans, by the end of this year, in November or December, we are going to have a dedicated event to talk in more detail about the accomplishments that we have achieved in the course of implementation of the ULC, and we'll be happy to see you there to discuss follow-up ideas and how this platform is going to be used in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And it sounds like there are many interesting events planned in the pipeline. So there's a lot to look forward in the fall. Thank you again, everyone. This is everything that we had for today. And special thanks to our speakers for joining us. And I would wish you a pleasant day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.